In this first video, you'll see prehistoric creature, large snails, fish, shrimps, but bear with me, Indo-Pacific fish, clams, and corals, or hosting Amazonian creatures, where lush green foliage thrives, and even tiny creatures building their societies. I will show you how to build each system from the beginning to the end. But first, I have to bring the tank in. I have bought it used. This is now time for the cleanup. It's now clean, so let me show you how to install the background. I've used a window film and some white foam. This is my first time ever making a video, so let me know what you think. Now goes the scape. I'll be using some wood, lava rocks, and fertile soil. A thin layer is enough to provide nutrient for the plants. The wood is completely dry, so I had to glue them to hold them in place. Some touch up and voila! All done and stable. A second layer goes on top. It will reduce the water hardness while also giving that nice aesthetic look. While waiting, let's start life. They are called triops, and I bought these eggs dry. The triops eggs are in a state that is called diapause. It means that they could live in a dried out state for decades. Everything is now ready for our first host. I took these from my other tank and they will supercharge the beginning. But something happened. I left for 7 days. The wood was fuzzy, the glass covered. I think the bacteria work a bit too well, even on the surface. But wait, we have to feed them. I'm talking about not the bacteria, the triops. The eggs had already hatched. On the next day, I received a nice package with some large leaf plants, stem plants, and moss. The first animal also arrives. To make sure they will be doing well, I'm installing a filter. I choose this one because it has a flow to clean the surface. A heater goes in the corner. It's time to plant. It is really easy, you just have to cut the stem and push them down. With the soil I've installed, I'm sure they will grow well. No tank is complete without some floating plants, along with the Asian clams to filter the water. Next is the Sakura Shrimp because of its bright red colors. They are agile thanks to their 10 legs that they use to explore and gather food, which they grab with their 2 pairs of clamps called chili. 2 pairs of antennae are used to sense its environment. The clam is already cleaning the water. This is a rabbit snail. I chose him for its striking yellow. He is a bit shy, but the shrimp like to bother him. It took a bit of time, but then when he felt confident enough, he just started to move, and he cleaned the tank really well. They even started bothering the clams. So with its unique foot, it started to look for another place, hopefully with no shrimps. But something dramatic happened. I could not believe it. I was not there on time. I have never seen that. Look at these clams. But that was not enough. He even bothered some other shrimps. On day 14, everything was going well, except that I didn't like how the water looked. So I decided to change the filter for another type that was larger and could hold more media to polish the water. I bought it used and the tube wasn't included, so I had to do with what I had on hand, which at first turned out not that great, but somebody does approve it. It also has a built-in UVC sterilizer that will take care of any excessive bacteria. After work, I look at the tank and the plants have grown really well, even over the water. But I spotted something. A snail? With some eggs. So I started looking on the surface, maybe crawling on the plants. But that means something else could be underneath. So I started to look underwater. I used a special attachment that allowed me to see. I've searched for a long time, but I could not see anything on the plants or the roots. And then suddenly, a working shrimp. With disappointment, it was time to get out of there. Few days later, I decided that I needed some new fish. A Panama sterisoma. It is a peaceful and non-aggressive fish that feeds on the algae and plants. The shrimps were also happy to have a new helper and sharing their space. The fish like to hide in caves and driftwood, which we have a lot in here. Everybody was working hard to clean the tank, but also having fun. A lot of shrimps reproduced, so I had at least 30. Some plants were covered in algae, but I was not worried because now I have a larger crew. Even the plants started to grow over the surface with long white roots. The shrimp like to hang around that area because they certainly host a lot of food. There is also one other animal that has grown really well. The microscopic triops has now grown to over a centimeter. We can now see the three eyes, giving their name triops, with the two larger eyes and the smaller median eye. But you're now wondering, why is there only one? I had over 50 eggs and he's the only one. The last day I had over 20. They all disappeared with nothing remaining, so I started a new batch of eggs. After this tragic event, I decided to not introduce the triops to the system. So it was time to welcome some new animals. Some neon tetra that like to live in a group. The smallest species of Corridoras, the pygmy. Lastly, the coolie loach. It does look like a snake and it's really shy. The two larger goes out first and the smaller one was really afraid. They stayed in the corner for a few hours because they were afraid of their new habitat. But that's not for a long time. Oh, and I forgot, there is also two zebra snails that are the specialists for cleaning the rocks. The pygmy catfish are sometimes swimming with the tetra neon, but most of the time he remains on the soil, cleaning it. A week later, I found the tank with a lot of algae, so now it's time for the maintenance. Cutting the plants, and we'll keep the stem to use them later on. You just have to group them and plant them in the soil. No maintenance is complete without a water change. I have changed half of the water because it was really muddy. After doing so, the water is now cloudy from all the oxygen that's been introduced by the new water. I'm sure you'd like to hear more about it, but it's time to an end of this chapter. This tank build has been an exciting journey, bringing together fish and prehistoric creatures in a vibrant underwater world. From start to finish, we've witnessed the creation of a beautiful and balanced ecosystem. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing because there is much more.